When did you watch someone choose madness over acceptance? My dad spent 31 years building Thornwood furniture from nothing. Hand-carved pieces that sold for thousands. Celebrity clients. A waiting list 8 months long. Then his business partner Gerald stole everything. Forged signatures, offshore accounts, shell companies. By the time my dad realized what happened, Gerald had drained $2.3 million and vanished to somewhere in South America. The police said international cases like this almost never get resolved. Lawyers said pursuing it would cost more than we'd ever recover. Everyone told my dad to cut his losses, file bankruptcy, start fresh. He was 58 years old. He could rebuild something smaller. But my dad wouldn't accept it. He sat at his empty workshop table the night after the lawyers delivered their verdict and said 4 words that changed everything. I'm going to find him. At first, people understood. Anger is part of grief. But weeks passed and my dad didn't move on. He sold our family home and moved into a studio apartment above a laundromat. Every dollar went toward private investigators and international lawyers. He taught himself forensic accounting from library books. He learned Spanish from free apps, practicing for hours every night. My mom begged him to stop. This is destroying us, she said. He barely looked up from his computer. Gerald destroyed us. I'm just finishing it. Within 6 months, my mom filed for divorce. She told me she didn't recognize him anymore. His friends stopped calling. His remaining clients went elsewhere. The man who built beautiful things with his hands now spent every waking moment hunting digital paper trails across 3 continents. I visited him on his 60th birthday. The apartment smelled like instant coffee and desperation. Papers covered every surface. Maps with red pins, bank statements, flight records. He'd lost 40 pounds. His hands, the same hands that carved masterpieces, now trembled from exhaustion. Dad, I said, Gerald won. You need to accept that. He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Acceptance is surrender. I watched my father choose madness. I watched him become someone the world pitied and avoided. Relatives whispered that he'd lost his mind. A former client saw him at a coffee shop and later told me he looked homeless. The private investigators stopped taking his calls. One sent back his retainer with a note that said pursuing this further would be unethical. But my dad kept going. He joined online forums for fraud victims. He contacted journalists. He filed complaints with agencies in 4 different countries. Then 3 years into his obsession, something impossible happened. A fraud investigator from Brazil reached out. She'd seen my dad's posts in an obscure forum and recognized Gerald's methods. Turns out Gerald had done this before. 3 times. Different countries. Different identities. Same playbook. She'd been building a case for years but couldn't find the earlier victims. My dad's obsessive documentation was exactly what she needed. For the first time since this began, my dad smiled. Within months, Gerald was located in Argentina, living under a fake name. He'd gotten comfortable, sloppy. Brazilian and American authorities coordinated his arrest. The trial took another year, but Gerald was convicted on 14 counts of international wire fraud. My dad testified for 6 hours, presenting evidence so detailed, the prosecutor called it the most thorough victim documentation she'd ever seen. Gerald got 12 years in federal prison. Asset recovery took time, but my dad eventually got back $1.4 million. Not everything, but enough. He used it to open a small workshop again. Nothing fancy. Just him and his hands and the wood. My mom came to the grand opening. They didn't get back together, but she hugged him for a long time. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Later, a journalist asked my dad if he regretted the years he lost to his obsession. He held up a chair he'd just finished. First piece in 4 years. The world called it madness, he said. I called it refusing to let a thief steal my entire life. Sometimes acceptance is giving up disguised as wisdom. My dad turned 64 next month, and his waiting list is 3 months long again.